Hello and welcome back to day 12 of this Mule for in-depth training. So today we're going to understand about file endpoint, how to actually poll for files in a directory, how to read files, how to write files, etc. using file endpoint. So let me tell you what I want to achieve. What I want is in my C drive, I have a folder called as files. And inside this, I'll have a folder called as input. Now, whenever I keep any file inside this folder, I want my Mule application to read that file and process the records in that file. So I want to poll a directory for any new files, get the files, process the records in that file. This is my requirement. Let us see how to achieve it using file endpoint. So I'll create a new project for this. File demo. Fine. Now, I want to add a module, file module. So I'll click on add modules. I'll drag and drop file module here. So I added file module as a dependency to this project. And now here, there is something called as on new or update file component. I'll drag and drop it. So this on new or updated file is in the source part. That means it can actually trigger the flow. Fine. Just like any other connector like database connector or HTTP, this also has a connector configuration. I need to click on plus and configure this global element. But again, as a best practice, I'll create a new file, globals.xml, and here I will add file config. Fine. Here there is nothing much. I need to select connection checkbox, and here I need to give the working directory. This working directory can be treated as the base directory. So what is my base directory? C drive files is my base directory. So I'll give it. I can make this directory also as dynamic by writing it as an expression. It can be dynamic as well. But right now, I hard-coded the value C drive/files. I'll just test the connection. It will check if that folder is existing or not. So test connection is successful. Fine. That is a base directory. Fine. Now, I'll go to my on new or update file component and I will select the global element. Then here, this component will look for a new or updated file in a given directory. Which directory? Input directory under the base directory. I gave the base directory as C drive/files under that input folder. I want this folder to be the directory which this component has to poll. Fine. Now, coming down, I'll tell you about all the options. At what frequency do you want to poll? There are two options, fixed frequency, or you can write a cron expression. Suppose if I want to poll the directory after every 5 seconds, I have to select 5 and time unit is seconds. So you can select the time unit to be days or hours or minutes or whatever. But to poll the directory after every 5 seconds with a start delay. Maybe whenever your application gets deployed, you want it to wait for, let us say, 5 seconds. So after the Mule application gets deployed, it will wait for 5 seconds. And then from then onwards, it will poll the directory after every 5 seconds. This is the one. Or let us assume that I have a complex requirement, like I want to poll the directory in every second Saturday of the month. Second Saturday, is it a fixed frequency? No, right? Some months have 30 days, 31 days, 28 days, 29 days. So second Saturday is not fixed. So if you have such a complex requirement to poll on every second Saturday or whatever, then you can use something called as scheduling strategy called as cron. Actually, you can use a cron expression. Okay. So what is that cron expression? Let me tell you how to actually write that cron expression. I also don't remember. I just need to know cron expression. I just need to know how to Google, that's all. Cron expression. Suppose cron expression for every second Saturday. Second, or let's assume that alternate Sunday. Okay. So I can just Google and check what is it, right? Cron job on every second Saturday. Yeah, this is the expression. This is expression for every second Saturday. Right? I don't even remember. I just Google and use it. So you don't need to remember as well. So I will go with fixed frequency right now. I want to poll the directory after every 5 seconds and with a start delay of 5 seconds. Fine. Now, there are other options as well. Recursive, there is a checkbox called as recursive. What is the meaning of recursive? Actually, I configured this on new or updated file component to poll for input directory. What if there is a nested directory? Let's assume that there is a nested directory A. Inside that, again, there is a nested directory D. Inside that, there's a file. Do you want to recursively go inside each subdirectory and poll for new files? If that is your requirement, you want to go to recursive directory. You want to go into subdirectories recursively and poll for files. Then you can just select recursive. If you uncheck it, that means it will look for files directly under C drive / file / input. Fine. I don't want recursive. Fine. Now, again, I might want to actually poll for only CSV files. Or I want to poll for files matching some criteria. So I can select matchers. I can select edit inline. Here, there are a lot of matchers available. For example, you want to poll for files with a minimum size. Let's say you want a minimum size of 5 what is a unit? I guess we just have to check. According to documentation, it should be in KBs, I guess. 5000 KB. I have to check in documentation what is this. Is it in KBs or MBs? So after checking the documentation, we will understand. Okay, I gave minimum size. Even I can give. I want to poll for files only if the file size, maximum size, the file size will be less than this maximum size. And if you want to poll for files with extension CSV, ending with CSV. So what I can do, CSV. But before that, there can be anything. Dot star. This is the file name pattern for any file ending with .csv. Or you want to poll for files which are created since, created until, updated since. This all you can configure. So if you are very particular about which files to poll, then there are a lot of matchers according to your requirement. You can select and use. I suggest you to go to the documentation of file endpoint and see what is the meaning of all this. There will be examples as well for each of them. You can refer to them. But this is just a high level introduction. Now, I don't want to specify the matches. So it will poll and pick up any file. If I specify match as none. Okay, and there are a lot of other configurations also, which we will see next in some time. These all I will talk about one by one. But now let us go ahead. Now, what I am going to do is, in my Git repository, there is orders.csv. I'm going to keep this orders.csv under input directory. I'll copy it into input directory. Let us see what does this orders.csv contain. It contains some information about orders. There are 5 orders in this CSV. Fine. So I'll keep this inside this input folder. Okay. There are a lot of orders in the CSV file, right? Actually, once the CSV file is read, we want to read that CSV file and transform the records in that CSV file to a list. What I will do is simply I just drag and drop transform message component and just write the expression as payload. So what this transform message will do is it identify that the incoming file is a CSV file. CSV file contains multiple records, right? This is one record, this is another record. So a CSV file will contain list of records. So this transformation simply will convert the file content to a list of records. Okay. So I can just drag and drop a logger and just write what is a payload. Simple. So this flow will just poll for a file. Once the file is there, it will transform into list, and then I am just logging it. That's all. Let us see. I will run this application. Let it start. Okay, it got deployed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this orders.csv into input folder. Let us observe the console. Yeah, there is some log. Hey, the content of the file, you can see it is logged, right? The content of the file is logged. But same file content is processed again and again and again. After every 5 seconds, you can see the same log. Hey, is the file still present? Oh, so what is happening is the component is going and polling for a file. If there is a file, it is reading the content and the flow is kicked off. So same file is processed after every 5 seconds. Oh, I don't want this. Once the file is processed, I want to delete that file. So what we can do is here in the file component itself, there is an option post processing action. Auto delete by default is false. I'll make it as true. That means once the file is processed, it will be deleted. Let us see. I'll run it again. Okay, the application got deployed. And let us wait. After 5 seconds, you can see the file content is logged. And is the file deleted? Yes, the file is deleted. Right. So that is the meaning of auto delete. Okay, let me clear the console. And again, I will copy the file into input. Again, it is processed. Say it is printing, logging the list of records. Fine. Now, I lost the file Z. It is deleting from input directory. It is deleting the file from input directory, but I'm losing the file. Oh, I don't want it to be deleted. I want the processed file to be moved into some other directory. Yes, here I can give the directory name. What I will give is here under C drive files, I will create a new folder, processed. files. Okay, processed files. I'll give the directory name processed files. To make sure that I don't do any spelling mistake, I'll copy and paste. Fine. Now I'll make it auto delete as false. So auto delete is false and move to directory is configured. Let us see what will happen. Let it be redeployed. It got redeployed. Now I'll keep the orders file into input folder. It should be picked in 5 seconds. Yes, processed. Let us see. Oh yeah, it is there. It is moved. After processing, I can see the file content and it is moved. Fine. Very good. Okay. Now I have few questions. Few probable interview questions or probable other questions. So now what I'll do is, let us see various scenarios. I'll copy this orders into input again. After 5 seconds, you can see that a message was there. The file orders.csv already exists. Set overwrite parameter to true to perform operation anyway. So here, let us see if there is something called as overwrite. Yes. So overwrite equals to true. So in that case, if I configure overwrite equals to true, if the file is existing in the moved process directory, it will be overwritten. Or I don't want it to overwrite. I'll make it false. I want the file to be renamed. So how to actually rename? What I want to do is I want to somehow get the input file name. And for that, maybe I want to suffix something at the end of the file. How to get the original file name? I'll go to output. See, if I go to output, you can see what is the output of this on new. I'm selecting on new or updated file component. If I select input, it shows the input metadata. If I select output, it shows the output metadata. In output metadata, see the attributes is of type what? Local file attributes. Then inside that is a file name. Yes. So attributes is of type local file attributes. In that I have file name. So I can write an expression rename to what? Attributes dot file name plus. I want to concatenate with dot backup. And maybe if I add a timestamp, here, then maybe the file name will be unique, is it? How to get the timestamp? So it's again a data weave expression. You need to write a data weave expression by concatenating. Right now, as you have not understood more data weave, right now I'm just leaving it. I just wanted to tell you here how to retrieve the original file name. How? By using output metadata. If you see, attributes is of type local file attributes, you can get the file name. You can get the size of the file, creation time, whatever it is, if you want to access. You can. So here I am not using any timestamp. So again, the file name might be same. So what I will do is I will say overwrite equals to true for now. If I can somehow write a data weave expression to suffix the current timestamp, that file name will be unique. But right now, as you didn't go through data weave fully, right now I'm just leaving it. Okay. But understand that you could write a data weave expression to get the current timestamp. So I saved this file. It will get processed. It will get redeployed in some time. Let us wait. Yep, redeployed. I'll clear the console. Now in the input folder, again I'll copy orders. After 5 seconds, it should be picked up. Yes. Then in the processed files, do you see orders.csv.backup? This is a new file. So like that, when you're actually moving the file to another directory, you can rename it. Fine. Now you understood about all this. Now I'll delete this. I don't want. Now, see here, auto delete is false. That means right now, if this is the configuration, the file will not be deleted after it is processed. The file will be still lying in the input directory. What I want is somehow this on new or update file component should remember that this file is already processed. So that second time whenever it polls, if it sees the same file, it should not reprocess it again. How is that? How can a Mule application remember some data across multiple invocations of the flow? I hope you got the answer. Object store, watermarking, we have understood earlier, right? Yes, watermarking can be used so that the file see here, there is something called as watermark mode. I'll make it as created timestamp. Okay, let us see what is the meaning of watermarking mode as created timestamp. It is very interesting and very important for interviews or exam. Please concentrate and listen. What is the meaning of watermark mode as created? Okay, if I configure like this, what it will do? Whenever this on new or update file component gets a file, what it will do is it will check in the object store. It internally uses the object store. As you know, in object store, we can store key value pairs, right? So whenever this on new or updated file gets a file, it will get the file name and check in the object store. Is there any key with same as file name? If no, if there is no such key with file name, then that means it is a new file. It will read the file, process the file. The flow will be kicked off. But then after the file is processed, what it will do? It will get the created timestamp. Every file will have a created timestamp, right? So if I see this file, if I right click and see the properties, is there a created timestamp here? Yes. I can see created timestamp, modified timestamp, access timestamp, etc. So every file has a created timestamp, modified timestamp, access timestamp, etc. So now what this component will do is whenever it picks a file, it will take the created timestamp and put the file name as a key and the created timestamp as the value within the object store. Okay. Then next time when it polls after this case, it will see the file. Once it sees the file, it check in the object store. Is there any entry with same name as a file name? Yes. It will pick the value and then compare the incoming current timestamp, incoming created timestamp. Is it same as this value? If yes, that means the file is already processed, right? So it will not reprocess the file even though the file is present, right? So internally, don't you think that this on new or update file is using object store or watermarking? Yes. This is another example of watermarking. A file store on new or updated file will internally use watermarking. It will store the created in the object store. Hey, not only create a timestamp, you can configure modified timestamp. What is the meaning? Okay, suppose if I say created timestamp, let us see what will happen. Okay, I saved it. I think it got redeployed as well. I'll clear the console. Now I'll copy this and paste it here. Let us see, it got processed, but the file is still there. After 5 seconds, again this on your updated file will pull and see the same file. Then it will check in the object store. Is there any entry with file name? If yes, it will pick the value, compare the timestamp, created timestamp with the incoming file created timestamp. If both are same, the file will not be processed. See, you don't see another log here. The file is not processed. Okay. But what if I modify the file? Suppose if I edited this file, and let's assume that one more record is added, for example. One more record is added. I want this file to be reprocessed, right, in case of modification. So if I modify this file, what happens actually? If you see the modified timestamp, right now it is modified at this time. This is a modified timestamp. Somehow, if the file component can store the modified timestamp, it will be good, right? So I can select modified timestamp. So instead of created timestamp, now modified timestamp will be stored in the object store. Okay, I'm saving it. It is building. Let it get redeployed. Now it will reprocess the file. See? Yeah, after 5 seconds, the file got reprocessed. Fine. Now again, after 5 seconds, let us wait. Is the file processed again? No, because the modified timestamp is still the same. Now I'll go and modify again. I will add 7th record. Okay, saved. So the modified timestamp is changed. See, the file is now processed again. Do I see serial number 7? Yes. So that is the use of watermarking. I hope you clearly understood about how watermarking is being used here. Okay, good. Now you understood how to pull a file. Now, how to write a file? Okay, what I want to do is I have a simple requirement. I'm going to create a new flow with a HTTP listener map to /write. And whenever somebody is making a request, I expect query parameters, right? Question mark. Product ID is equals to ampersand. Product name is equals to something. And price. So I'm expecting 3 query parameters. Now, once I get this request, I want to get this query parameters, transform using a transformer. I want to convert this data to a CSV. Then I want to use a component called as write component in file module to write a CSV called as products.csv. Let us see how to actually transform. You'll understand basic transformation here. How to transform this query parameters to CSV data and how to write it. We'll see how to use this write component now. Now, as I told you, I want to drag and drop a HTTP listener. I'll rename this flow as write flow. Fine. Okay. I will configure HTTP listener in the global elements. HTTP listener config. I will take the defaults 8081. Fine. Then here I'll give the path as /write. Okay. Now let us see how to actually write a transformer. to transform that query parameters to a CSV. I'll drag and drop transform message component. Firstly, let me stop this console so that it will not get redeployed. Fine, I dragged and dropped transform message. So for the transform message, to the left side of transform message, you can see this HTTP listener is there. The transform message is able to sense the input metadata here. The left side is HTTP. The attributes is of type HTTP listener attributes. Right. Payload is not defined. We don't know what payload will come in the body. And on the right side here, you can see output metadata. It is not defined. Now I know that the output of this transform message component must be a CSV. So what I can do is I can click on define metadata. I want to define the output metadata as a CSV. So here there is nothing. I'll click on add. I'll give something like products CSV. Creating a type called as product CSV. Wait. Yes. We know that its type is CSV. And if you have an example file, you can select the sample file here. But right now I want to tell what all are the fields I'm expecting in CSV. I want the first field to be PID, product ID. And I know that it is of type number. Then second one, I want P name. I know that it is of type string. Third one is price. I know that it is of type number. So I am telling that a CSV, every row will contain these comma separated names. Select. So now it is resolving the metadata, and you can see that the output is an array because the CSV file will contain multiple rows, right? Each row will contain PID, P name, and price. So this is the output. And I'm expecting the values of this PID, P name, and price to come from query parameters. So you see in the left side attributes, there will be query params. Actually, if I just drag and drop query params on top of PID, you can see a data weave expression is generated. Output is now application/CSV automatically by just dragging and dropping. You can see that the expression is generated. Now, if I click on this icon, show graphics, you can see that we have mapped this query params to PID. Again, I know that query parameter name will be PID. Attributes that query params dot PID will actually retrieve the value of PID, right? So I wrote. Now again, I'm expecting from P name. Again, dot. I can say name. I'm expecting name, comma, or again, I'll drag and drop on price. See? Again, I will write here dot price. So this is the actual expression to transform the incoming data to a CSV. Fine. Now, what I want is whenever I'm outputting CSV, I don't want headers. So header equals to false. If I want header line as well, I can specify, but right now I don't want headers. I'm making headers equals to false. Then what is the output of transform message? It is a array. Now I want to write a file. So in file module, there is write component. I'll just drag and drop this write component. Yep. So I will use the same file config, which I have configured earlier. Here, it's nothing but I have configured what is the working directory. That's all. So that means it's the base directory. Then here, I'll configure the path. I can give the relative path. So under C drive files, I want to create a new folder called as output, or I will not create. I'll just write output slash products dot CSV. And I'm telling this is a file to be written. The file path can be dynamic as well. Then what is the content to be written into the CSV file? Whatever is the payload, current payload, that will be written. Then here there's an attribute, create parent directories, true. Yes, output directory, if it is not present, it should be created. Let it be created. Then do you want to overwrite the file if it is existing, or you want to append? I want to append. If the file is already existing, whatever content is there, I want to append. So I wrote it. That's it. That's the configuration of write. Very simple. I'll just run this application now and see if I can write or not. I'll go to Postman and I'll give a request to /write and pass question mark. D is equals to 1%, name is ampersand, price is equals to 100. Let us see. Once this application starts, yeah, it got deployed. Now I'll give a request. See, actually, I'm able to see the CSV. The data is converted to comma separated values. And let us see if in the output folder is that products.csv. Yes. I'll again give another request. PID equals to 2. Name is something something EFGH and price is something. Yes. Now let us see if the file is updated. Yes, because we configured this write component with write mode as append. Very simple, right? Whatever is the payload will be returned. Hey, remember, what if I configure application/JSON? Suppose if I configure the output as application/JSON. Now, will this write component write the JSON, or because the file name is CSV, will it write CSV? Let us check. It is very interesting. This type of question I have seen. For clarity, I have deleted that file. Now I saved it. I think it got redeployed as well. Now let us see what will be the content written. Hey, this is the JSON actually. In the file, let us see the file. The file extension is .csv, but the content, let us see, it is JSON. Remember, just because I gave the extension as .csv does not mean it will write CSV. It will blindly write whatever is the payload. Here I configured the content as payload. Whatever is the payload before write component. In this case, the output of transform message is a payload. Here it is JSON. Will be written. So it's your responsibility to transform the data how you want. Then whatever is a payload will be written by the write component. That's all about how to read and write the files. There are other components like read, move, delete, create directory. These are self-explanatory. I want you to refer to the documentation and just understand what the other operations are doing. They are self-explanatory. But this read and undo or update file and write are the most important things I told you. So what you can do is you can actually go to my Git repository, and here I have the document using file module. Go through it step by step. I've given you the instructions on whatever I have done. So whatever I have done, please replicate it and see it on your machine. You try around, play around with it. And if you have any queries, you can talk to me. That's all for today. See you tomorrow.